Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second lecture for week one. And first, I wanted to apologize that I know had to record our lecture for tonight. I had a little family matter come up, but I wanted to make sure that I went through the assignments and the assessments for this week so that you guys can go ahead and get started and nobody's delayed. So that was definitely my number one goal. As I kind of said in the lecture last night, this week one, it's a lot of writing, but I don't want anyone to be concerned. It's not tons and tons, but we're not going to really be doing too much design stuff this week. So let's go ahead and look at the week one assignment. And I'm going to just walk us through the prompt here step by step so that everybody understands kind of what this is asking. So what you're going to be doing for your assignment this week is writing a creative brief. Like I had mentioned last night, if some of you took advertising principles before you took this class, you probably have been exposed to creative briefs before. And the ones you did in the advertising principles are a lot more in depth. What we're preparing for this class is a creative brief for design. And really the goal is to be able to hand this to another designer or, to somebody on your team, or perhaps it would be something that you might get yourself, that maps out what the project is, who you're designing for, goals, and all of that great stuff. So it doesn't have to be too long. Really, the ideal length is maybe around 2 pages. So that's kind of what we're aiming for here. So let's go ahead and look at the prompt. And as I was kind of mentioning last night, really this class and our assignments are building on top of each other. Every week we're doing one thing that's building off from the week before. So the first step before we actually build our entire campaign, because that's what we're actually doing, is we're going to be building an advertising campaign. And each week we're going to be designing a different element of that campaign. We want to go ahead and make sure we have a clear vision and a clear goal, message, and clearly identify our target audience. So for this class, we're going to be focusing on, and I want you guys really, this section right here of the prompt is really important, okay? So make sure you read it. The company that we're going to be designing for is Most Home, okay? And it gives a little background on the company, when they were founded, what they specialize in, and kind of what this campaign is going to be about. They recently launched a product that allows users to control their door locks from an app on their phone. It also connects to Wi-Fi, so users can lock, unlock, and check the status of their lock from anywhere in the world. The lock meets the highest standards in quality and security, both from physical and digital attacks. It's quick to install, and it's $149, which is competitively priced against their competitors. So they are taking part in a home show later this quarter, and they have hired you as the designer to create a billboard, a web banner, that advertises their trade show booth in their show, okay? They also want you to design a 1-page product tear sheet that advertises their locks to the attendees at the home show, and design a trade show booth. So again, when we look at this, we're going to see, we'll dig into each of these sections, each of these pieces a little bit every week. But just kind of a broad overview to get you thinking, the billboard and the web banner, the goal for that is to advertise people to come to the trade show. At the trade show, they're going to have a trade show booth that is going to hopefully encourage people to come and learn more about the smart lock. And in that trade show booth, we're going to have a product sheet. And it's kind of like a one-page brochure. I know a one-page product tear sheet can sound confusing, but think of it as like a one-page brochure that really talks in depth. So if we visualize this in our minds, kind of how it would go, you know, let's say I'm at a computer or I'm driving down the road and I see an advertisement for Most Home and a smart lock and the trade show, and I'm like, oh, that really interests me. So I think I want to go to this trade show and learn more about Most Home and their smart locks. I get to the trade show and then I have to find their booth. Once I find their booth, then I really want to make sure that I learn about their smart lock. So that's kind of when we think about the goals of what we're designing, that's kind of the flow that we're hoping. We hope to get them interested in the trade show, to come to it. And then once they're at the trade show, we want them to come to the Most Home booth. And then once they're in the booth, we want to teach them about the smart lock. So keep that in mind as, you know, you're writing your creative brief and you're defining your target audience this week. That's the goal, and that's kind of the flow of how our advertising campaign is going to work. Okay, so they are going to be providing their logo and imagery for the ads, which is a great thing. And then to meet their printers' deadlines, they need to have the finalized designs presented to them in 4 weeks, which is the length of our class. And the budget for the entire campaign is $10,000. Okay, so this again, it's a very kind of short description. It's almost like a project brief. So now we're going to take this information and we're going to do a little bit of research and we're going to map it out and turn this into a creative brief. So again, so a client comes to our business or comes to us and they give us a little project brief. We're going to take that project brief and we're going to turn it into a creative brief. So what do you have to include in your creative brief? Okay, so let's look at this. It needs to be at least 750 words, and it has to include all of these sections right here. The background summary and answers, who is the client, what is the product or service, key benefits, the competitive landscape, objectives, target audience, message, tone of voice, visuals, deliverables, budget, and salary. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through each of these sections to kind of give you a little idea of how to write it. Now, don't write exactly what I'm writing. If you do, you'll get points taken off. I'm just showing an example, but I don't want to see people writing the same exact things that I'm writing or laying out the same exact things that I'm laying out. This is your creative brief, so you really need to use your creativity, your research, and have it drive what you ultimately want to design for this advertising campaign. So another couple of notes is, you know, make sure you put thought into each section and answer it as thoroughly as possible. And I know you might think, oh, you know, we're designers, why do we really have to do this? And as we were talking last night, understanding what you are trying to advertise, market, or sell, and designing for that ultimately is what's going to make your design successful. You know, a successful design isn't always necessarily the most pretty design, which is a word that I hate using with graphic design, because what is pretty ultimately? What makes a design successful is that it achieves the goal. And specifically for this, and how we were talking about in last night's lecture, is that goal is that whoever sees it takes a very specific action. And that is ultimately what makes a successful design and makes us successful designers that clients want to work with, that we can deliver those results. So it's really important that we take our time to understand all these goals so we know how can we communicate visually and effectively with our target audience to get those results. So the 750 words do not include the section headings. The section headings are these things right here: tone of voice, background, summary, all of that. So that is not part of your section heading or of your 750 word count. So you can do your initial writing in Word if you want to, but the creative brief itself needs to actually be laid out in InDesign, because we want this to be something that shows your page layout skills and get you a lot more familiar with working in InDesign. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open InDesign, and we'll go ahead and jump in here and kind of start walking through all of these creative briefs sections. Okay, so once I have InDesign open, I'm just going to go ahead and do create new, and I want it to be an 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to change my units from picas to inches just so I don't have to convert anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and just make it 2 pages. Now, if it ends up being more than 2, that's fine. Ultimately, you know, whatever you need to do to make your 750 words work well, then that's what we want you to do. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create new. And here we go. So the first thing that we want to make sure that we do is we don't want this to be just a plain old, you know, white piece of paper. We want it to have some kind of design on it. So, you know, make sure you add a little bit of creative elements to it. You can do it up here in your page template if you want, so that it'll automatically be a part of every page you add. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, you know, but we want it to be something really appealing. It doesn't have to necessarily be branded to most home. And if you are, you know, have your own design company or you're doing it yourself, don't brand it to all of that. Just make this something, you know, a generic design, because this ultimately isn't about you marketing your company or your own logo for your design business. This is about a project. Okay, so I'm just gonna pick a blue here. You know, whatever, you know, you guys end up doing is fine, but again, try and make it something that is going to be nice to look at and organizes the information really well. Now, if you want, you can actually go ahead and start typing the information first and then see how much room you have, and design it after that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it really simple for myself, is I'm just going to take this whole section here and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to bring it into InDesign and paste it. So that way I know I don't have to keep kind of flipping back and forth. And I can go ahead and see, okay, this is all of the information that I have to add in here. Now, again, I don't want you to just put text in the middle of the page like this and make some stuff bold. We want you to actually design it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep one down here, that's the full one. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete it and keep my background summary. Now, what fonts you want to use are totally up to you. You know, I always just warn people, if you're going, you know, try to stay away from super stylized fonts. You don't want this creative brief to influence the advertising campaign. You know, nothing has been designed yet. So you don't want to hand this to a designer and then they think, oh, well, should I use this type of font? Do I need to use these types of colors? You want to make sure that you steer clear of influencing any type of design that may happen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put, put my background summary here. And, you know, again, maybe we want to do something creative with this. And I totally encourage everybody to do that. Or not encourage, but you should. Hold on, I'm gonna need to move this down for just a second. I'm gonna work in preview mode so that my guides aren't bothering me. So let's go ahead and say who is the client and what is the product or service. So if we come back here, we know that Most Home is our client. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and take that little sentence and copy it, bring it in here, and we can paste it. Let's go ahead and add this to a little bit of background. They've recently launched a new product that allows users to control their door locks from an app on their phone. And let's go ahead, I almost think, what is the product or service? So let's go all the way to, I think maybe this whole paragraph could be a really good background summary. Okay, so we have our background summary. And let's go ahead and that's a little too small. So I'm gonna, maybe we'll keep it at 12. I wanna increase my leading here a little bit to make it easier to read. One thing you really wanna watch out for when you're in InDesign is you see how I have these hyphens. We do not wanna have hyphens in anything that we design. So a really easy thing that you can do is come up here, whoops, to your paragraph window over here on your right. If you click this menu and do hyphenation and uncheck this box and click OK, it'll make sure that nothing that you copy and paste will be hyphenated. And that's ultimately what we want to make sure happens. Okay? So super easy thing to do. So here's our little background summary. And again, not too committed right now yet on how I want to lay things out yet. So I'm going to go ahead. My next one is key benefits. So all I'm going to do, again, this is just kind of how I work. How you guys work at this is totally up to you. I am just going to highlight these two because it's already the font that I want, the size I want, and the style. And I'm going to copy and paste it. Okay, and then I'm going to make my next section key benefits. Okay, so what are my key benefits? And actually, as I look at this paragraph, I think that this section is actually probably more of the key benefits. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put that down here. Okay. And there we go. And there's our key benefits section. So you can see a lot of what we're going to be using for our creative brief is kind of already mapped out for us. Many of the sections, about half. You're still going to have to do some research. So my next section is competitive landscape. So let's go ahead. And so what is a competitive landscape? Who is the competition? What differentiates us from them? And be sure to cite your research. So a really easy way that you can do this is just come in to your browser and do a Google search. Smart locks, or let's do home smart locks. And we can kind of see, okay, let's see, the best smart locks for 2019. Let's click on that. And we can see here are a whole bunch of people that make smart locks. I don't recognize a whole lot of these, but you know, what you can do is maybe what we even write is most popular smart locks. And again, we're kind of just doing some research. And make sure, you know, if you're going to do your research, make sure you are clicking on really reputable websites. You know, Forbes, definitely, CNET. Don't, you know, don't go and read, you know, Bob's blog and think, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do, you know, cite my research from Bob's blog. You want to make sure that you're definitely citing and researching and using information from reputable websites. And hold on, all this stuff is popping up. So let's go ahead. The best smart locks to keep your home secure. So there's this Schlag Sense. And if we read about it, what we're trying to find out is what differentiates us. So really it could come down to maybe using all 5 of these. And I think there was a good summary right here. We can say, you know, competitive research, oops, spelled that wrong, showed that the following companies are competitors for most home. Schlag Sense. I guess we could just put the Schlag. That was the company. Schlag, Nest, August, Quick Set, and Yale. Now, why are these competitors? We can say they are established products in the smart lock industry and have been identified as the best smart locks to keep your home secure. Have been identified as the best smart locks. Keep your home secure by Forbes magazine. Okay. And since this is going to be from a website, we need to make sure that I put my footnote here because we are going to cite it later on. So I'm just going to put a little 1 to know I need to go back and add and cite this website. Then let's read through it. Okay, they all come with an app, which so does the Most Home, compatible, blah, blah, blah. It's $280. It's less intrusive. It molds onto your current deadbolt. So when we look through and read about these, we can see that a lot of them are advertising the same type of features as the Most Home smart lock. And again, reading through, what we really can see is that the Most Home smart lock is definitely the most competitively priced. And that's how you would want to try and phrase it. You don't want to say it's the cheapest because sometimes people think, well, if it's the cheapest, it must not be the best. Because consumers oftentimes think the more expensive something is, the better it is. So we can say, you know, here, oops, let's turn off that superscript. The Most Home smart lock is competitively priced below the competition at $149. And then again, as you do your research, if you find that there's other benefits, then this is where you want to put it in. against the competitors. And what this really shows us is what are the things that are going to make the most home smart lock stand out above our competitors. Now, that may not necessarily be on every single piece that we design for our campaign, but again, all of this is giving us information on, okay, well, this is what we have opposed to our competitors, so maybe we should highlight that, okay? And then you're going to just go ahead and work through all of these sections. The objectives, what is the project? Okay, so let's go ahead and make our objectives section. And again, if we come back here, our objective is to read through here. Okay, hold on, let's see. What is the project and what are the goals for the project? Now, don't confuse objectives with deliverables. Okay, the deliverables are the actual billboard, web banner, and everything. The objective is what we want them to do. Okay, they've hired you. It's the action that we're trying to get people who see these advertisements to take. So they've hired us to create a billboard and web banner advertising their booth in the show, okay? So we can say the objective of the advertising campaign is to, what is it? Create that, hired you to create a billboard and web banner advertising their booth. So is to advertise the Most Home booth at the upcoming trade show and encourage people to visit the trade show or visit the booth at the trade show and learn more about Most Home Smart Lock. Maybe not even learn more, and purchase, because we don't want them to just learn. We want them to buy it and purchase a Most Home Smart Lock. Okay, so don't get confused again between the objective and the deliverables. Okay, the objective is the action that we want people to take when they see the advertisement. The deliverable is the actual design piece. Okay, so what is the message? And again, we can kind of take things off, you know, from this paragraph that we have here. So let me go ahead, and if you guys are ever wondering like how to really fit things well, a lot of text into one, you know, a small area, columns are a great way to do that. So don't think that you actually have to have your text come all the way across just like this. When you're dealing with a lot of text visually, a lot of times columns are easier for people to read because it breaks it up a lot for them, which is why you always see columns in newspapers. So don't be afraid to, again, go beyond just putting some text. All right, so our next section is the target audience. Oh wait, no, we already did the objectives, target audience. Who are we talking to and why? Now, I'm not going to answer this one for you guys because every target audience may be different. What one of you chooses to focus on, it may be different than what another classmate of yours, the target audience that they define. Now, this should be a pretty beefy section, you know, not a ton. But what I don't want you to write is the target audience is homeowners. Okay, like again, we're staying away from any generalized statements. You know, the target audience is married homeowners. Now, that's a little bit more specific, but not enough detail. Perhaps, you know, again, everybody's target audience may be different, but, you know, it should read something more like the target audience for the Most Home campaign is, let's see, perhaps it's home owners that live, and I mean, again, we're making this up because we don't know where it is, live in, you know, trying to think of a neighborhood that live in Savannah, Georgia, and have previously, let's see, and have been thinking about purchasing a smart lock. Now, again, I don't want anybody to write this. If you guys are writing this, you're going to have points taken off. But again, what I want to show is that we really want you to add more details, okay? Homeowners that live in Savannah, Georgia. This is their first home, and they want to make sure they keep it secure. They also travel frequently. And how am I saying this? You know, think about, again, some of the benefits is that they can lock, unlock, and check the status of their locks from anywhere in the world. It's a high quality and security in both physical and digital text, and it's easy to install. So that's kind of telling us, okay, maybe these people travel frequently for their jobs and, you know, want to make sure their home is safe while they're away, while they have, let's see, while they both work, or while they're professionals, maybe. They are very conscious, budget conscious. So again, I'm not going to write all of this out. And again, I don't want anybody to be writing this exact stuff, but you can see, really put in detail here, you know, stay away from, my target audience is homeowners, male homeowners, you know, and there you go. You can even dig into it. The target audience is families with children, homeowners, let's see, homeowner families with children that live in Savannah, Georgia. Okay, so again, specific enough that you have a good direction, but you're going to dig a lot deeper into your target audience when it comes to the assessment this week. So I don't want this to just be one sentence that says my target audience is male homeowners. Okay, nope, we got to dig in a little bit more deeply into that. Okay, what is the message? What are we trying to communicate? What is the key message we want the audience to take away from the campaign? You know, again, we can look at it, and these are kind of where your features come into play. It's competitively priced. It's easy to install. So we can go ahead and create our next section. Okay, and that is going to be our message. And our message for the campaign is to communicate. And what do we want to make sure it communicates? The key, what we want the audience to take away from the campaign. That it is competitively priced against other, let's see. So let's go ahead and take that sentence, is to communicate that The most home smart lock is competitively priced against other smart locks, but still quite a bit more than a standard lock. It meets the highest standards and quality, okay? Because if we're talking about that it's less expensive, we want to, again, make sure people know that it's not because it's not a great product, okay? And I would think that's maybe enough for that one. But again, I'm gonna leave it all up to you how much you add to each section. I'm just kind of trying to work through each one to give you a really good overview of what we're actually looking for. But again, remember, yours has to be 750 words. So hold on, I'm just trying to find my align tool. There we go. And that might be where doing it in Word first will be really helpful. So again, work through every section. The tone of voice, how should we be communicating? What adjectives best describe our approach? What emotions are we striving to create? You know, we can think about this. The tone of voice, what adjectives describe our approach? We're trying to be, you know, friendly, welcoming, and reassuring, and convey and strive to convey a safe, secure, worry-free experience with most home. Something, you know, again, don't overcomplicate things too much, but that's something that you can write for that section. The visuals, are we creating new imagery or will it be provided? So visuals will by the client. Now, I'm going to say if any of you guys have jumped ahead to week 2, they have the images that they want you to use. They're not the greatest images. Now, the thing about it is a lot of times with clients, they give you images and you have to work with them. And whether you like them or not, or think they're good images or not, it doesn't matter. They want you to work with those images. So again, in a real world, you may not have the option. You can try and encourage them to perhaps, you know, explore other imagery. And give them suggestions, but it's never a guarantee that they will. But what I will say, for the sake of this project and for school, not that this is something you can always do and you're working this for a client, if you want to use other images, you are welcome to. But it needs to make sense. Like, it can't just be, you know, any kind of image. Remember, we're dealing with smart locks and most homes. So try and stay consistent with what you're writing here in your creative brief and choose your images accordingly. So I will say, if you want to use your own images, go ahead and use your own images. Now, the one thing that you cannot change is the logo. The logo has to remain exactly the same. So do not change the logo. But again, if you want to explore other imagery, you can. For the sake of our creative brief, we're going to say the visuals will be provided by the client. And then the deliverables, we know that the deliverables will include a billboard, web banner, a one-page product tear sheet, and a trade show booth. And the budget and schedule. 4 weeks is the schedule, 4-week schedule, and a $10,000 budget for all advertising pieces. Okay, because it's not that we get $10,000 for one, you know, each one. we have $10,000 total to spend. So you see how those last couple sections are pretty easy to define. And that's really the gist of our creative brief. Now, again, mine is going to be too short, and we know that because I haven't filled out all the sections. But I wanted you to go ahead and show you as far as like expectations go for what the page should look like. Again, we want it to be pleasing to read. So we don't want it to just be, some boring old text on a page. So go ahead and think of this as a layout project too, okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and put my text here. Maybe I'm going to move this off. How you, again, design this is totally up to you. I don't want to see everybody putting a blue bar at the top of the page, okay? Nope, no, just doing exactly what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and we can put, most home here. And again, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, crazy. Just opening my color window here. Or maybe I'll use my swatches. Pull that up. But we want it to, again, look pleasing. Don't do a ton of branding. I don't want to see, again, your own personal logo that's, advertising your design company that you're starting. This is for this class, and it's for most home. So we don't want all this branding because ultimately we don't want to influence what designer may see this and go, oh, do I have to use this kind of styling? Nope, you don't. So again, be really mindful about what you're doing here. I'm just going to put, what this is up here at the top. And again, if I want to maybe, go to week 2, let's see, I think I'll make that a little bit bigger. Maybe make that just, nope, it's a little thick. That looks nicer. For most home smart locks. So okay. Pretty simple. So maybe I'll come down here and maybe make these a little bit bigger. Maybe change the color so that they stand out some. And again, don't stress yourself out too much, because ultimately this is about a really good creative brief that is hitting all of the high points and giving a designer all the information that they need to be able to take this project and start designing for it. Okay, here we go. And again, however you feel, oops, you want to design, it's totally up to you. Again, what I just want to say is I don't want anyone to overly design these. Maybe I can put, I can put a little circle here if I want for a bullet. Let's see, maybe that's green as well. That doesn't really look that great. Maybe we do something like, maybe we box everything, each section in. so that they're really easy to see. Something, maybe let's make this line a little bit, but you know, be a little, again, be creative, but don't influence the design. You want this, again, for somebody to be able to take a look at this and see quickly, oh, okay, these are the different sections that I have, and I can read through it and get a really great overview about this project. Okay. So maybe we just do something like this for each section, okay? Make sure, again, that the section headers are standing out really well. Make sure that you're aligning things correctly. Like here on my left, I want to make sure that I have a really nice lined up margin over here, and then with the square as well. Okay, and for anyone who may not be as familiar with InDesign, there are these really great alignment tools. So if I click on this text, hold my shift key and click on the next one, and maybe that one, because I want all three of these to be lined up. I can see up here in my top right corner, I have these alignment tools. And this will mean align the left edges, align it center, align the right. I can align the top, the vertical centers, and the bottom. So like you see, if I did that one, everything goes to the bottom, everything goes to the middle, everything goes to the top, to the right. We want to go like that, okay? Hold on, there we go. So we just want to make sure we align everything to the left. So again, I could do something really simple like that. If you do, again, make sure that you are centering your text within the box and then giving yourself enough room for the other sections as well, okay? So if I bring this one over here, you see, yeah, it's a little tight. So I might want to actually make this a little bit thinner, but if I do that, I want to bring my text in some more too. Okay, so that again, I have really nice margins around my entire text. And then I want to make sure that if I do put another box here, that I have the same space here on the left and in the middle and on the right. So there we go. So we can do something like this. Bring that guy up. He needs to come to the front. Hold on, oops. Arrange, bring to the front. And we can shorten that. Oops. If I click here, I can see that my width is 3.1249 inches, so I want to make sure all of mine are the same width. They don't have to be the same height, but they need to be the same width. So if I click on my text box and I put in that same size, it's going to shrink it down for me. And that's exactly what we want to do. Okay. So you could, whoops, let's go ahead and save it. So if we're in 245, we save our file. Make sure you save it well before you did as much work as I did, because I can't believe I went that long. DES245, this is assignment 1, and then your first name and your last name. Okay, so maybe that's like one little idea there that you could do. You know, again, you don't have to and don't follow mine exactly. But, you know, you can also keep it simple. Maybe we just have, you know, a little line here. That shows our section heading. so that it's, whoops, clearly identifiable to people. Maybe it doesn't even need to be that big, but even something like that could work. Maybe we'll make it the green as well so it stands out a little bit more. I am a big believer in not having 100% pure black text. It's actually a little harder to read when it's pure black and white, particularly when you're on a screen. So I like to bring my text down just a little bit. And how you can do that is if I select it all and I have black, up here in my tint, I can just change it to 95. Now, this is definitely holds true for like if you're doing anything that's going to be read digitally. Pure black on white is actually very hard to read on any kind of digital screen. So even just toning it down a little bit to, you know, that 95% is great. Printing out, when you print something on a page, it's not as hard to read, but again, it's something that I like to do, is to just not have that pure black and white text. That can be really hard on the eyes. Okay, but totally up to you. So again, we can do something really simple like this. Really, again, whatever your heart desires, you can do. You know, you can even, you know, break them up into full color sections, like maybe we'll make them, no, that wouldn't look good. What are some other things we could do? We could do maybe, let's see, we could do a little character. So if I think webdings, yep, everybody has webdings on their machine, and that's kind of like an icon font. So instead of letters and numbers, you get all these different icons. So that's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. That 1, 2, 3, 4. So something like number 4. If anyone, again, just didn't know that, it's called webdings. And it's a quick and easy way to get icons when you're laying something out. You know, we could just do something small like this. Again, maybe we'll make it our green. Okay, but you want, ultimately what you're trying to do is make these sections stand out. And again, remember that this is ultimately something somebody is reading. So make it pleasing for them to read, okay? But don't overly design it. Okay, so you guys kind of get the idea. These are just some examples that I did. Please, you know, use your own creative freedom to come up with something else. But ultimately, the thing to remember is that this creative brief is mostly graded on what you have written. And that's something really important that I want to make sure everybody does when you start a project, is if you scroll down, we're back here in Canvas, if you scroll down below the prompt, you see the grading rubric. And this is what you are actually graded on. So you get 16 points is for if your PDF is named correctly. 40 points is that 750 words and provides sufficient detail for all 10 required sections. So you see right here, the assignment specifics, what you write is the most points that you receive for this assignment. So be aware of these types of things because, you know, all too often somebody will turn in something that looks really great, but doesn't follow the sections and doesn't provide the information. And they'll say, well, wait a minute, why didn't I get a good grade? Look how great it looks. Well, because 40 points of this assignment is actually about the detail for all of the sections. 20 points is for the layout, okay? Another 20 points is for spelling, grammar, and quality of writing. So again, when you think about this section and your assignment specifics, more than half of your grade is going to be, for this assignment, it's going to be about your writing, not your actual design. That is only 20 points. And then you're getting 24 points. This is huge. You're getting more points for turning this in on time than you are for the layout, okay? So think about these kinds of things when you guys are doing your assignments. If it is Saturday and you're like, crap, I need to get this really turned in, I know I have everything written and now I've got to go to work. If you get it in on time and it doesn't have a ton of layout to it, you're going to get 24 points. So imagine when you don't submit this on time, that is 24 points you get taken off. So it's almost better to make sure you get things turned in on time for this assignment, okay, than spending a ton of time trying to design something and lay it out. Because again, that's only 20 points of this grade. So really look at your rubrics, not just for this assignment, but for all of your classes and for all of our assignments moving forward, to understand what you are getting graded on. Because again, sometimes you read through and you go, oh, well, I thought it looked really good and I didn't get a good grade. Why is that? Make sure you look at your rubric. 24 points for turning in something late is a lot, okay? So it's almost better to maybe give up points somewhere else, like if you haven't fully laid it out yet, maybe it's just black and white. That is better than turning it in late, okay? Because that 20 points will never be equal to that 24 points. Hopefully that makes sense. Am I saying don't do it? No, I'm not saying don't do that. But if you have to make a choice, this is why getting your assignments turned in on time is so important. It's actually a really big part of your grade, okay? So once you're done, you want to make sure, because again, you are actually getting 16 points for making sure you name it correctly and turn it in as a PDF. And in InDesign, it's super easy. We just come up here to File, Export, and down here in Format, we're going to make sure we have Adobe PDF Print selected. Click Save. You don't have to change any of these default settings. You can keep them exactly how they have it. And you just click Export. And once it's done saving, this PDF is what you're going to turn in, okay? So remember, a PDF that is named correctly is 16 points of your grade. Don't give away 16 points on something, very small like this, okay? And that's pretty much the expectation for this assignment. Again, I want to reiterate to everybody, if you haven't done a creative brief, if you're not sure, make sure you reach out to me. That is what I'm here for, to answer any questions that you may have. I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, that, you feel good moving forward, because how you set your project up this week is going to influence everything we do for the next 3 weeks. So as you're designing things, I might have to go back and say, hey, is this really pertaining to your target audience? What's the message? What are you trying to communicate? Those are all of the things that you're going to be graded on moving forward. So you want to make sure that you have a really good understanding and a really good grasp of who your target audience is, what you're trying to accomplish, and the ultimate action that you want them to take, whether it's come to the trade show, visit their trade show booth, or purchase a smart lock. So remember that. And remember that while you're designing, everything from this creative brief is going to be driving what you design. So I can't stress that enough. Because as we get down into our billboards, into our web banners, and our trade show booth, you know, a lot of the feedback so often comes down to, well, what are you trying to communicate? What are you asking people to do? You know, and those are the questions that you always want to make sure you have answered in all of your designs for this advertising campaign. Who are you talking to? What are you trying to communicate to them? And what are you asking them to do? And that's why it's important to make sure you really map out your creative brief well. Okay, so I don't want to see that in our next coming weeks. Is are you really talking to your target audience? All right. So again, let's just start getting our minds thinking about that type of process. Okay. All right, and that is assignment 1. Not too bad, right? Hopefully. Let's go ahead and look at the assessment. Now, the assessment is a little bit different. What you're going to be doing is defining a target audience. And you want to actually do some research on what a target audience is, and you want to actually focus on the demographics. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how I should shape that sentence. So for the assessment, you're going to write a 500-word paper in Word. So no worries, you don't have to lay anything out. We're straight up doing Word. That describes the 5 demographics and explains why these demographics best describe a typical customer for this product. So what does that actually mean? The 5 demographics. Okay, let's go to this first sentence. Research the smart home and homeowner market and look for 5 demographics that define the target audience for most home and its new smart lock. So it's recommending that you use the Shark library to research methods for determining a target audience. And I encourage you guys to do that too, but you can also do your own internet searches if you would like. That's totally up to you. What I will say though is you want to make sure that you're using reputable sources. And I'm sure you guys have probably already heard this a ton of times, but any research you do and that you cite, make sure you do reputable sources. Again, since this is a Word document, there's not a whole lot for me to explain. You're just going to type 500 words, and this is going to be the 5 demographics you identify for your target audience. If you're unsure of what a demographic is, just do a quick Google research. What are target audience demographics? Okay, and we can read the difference between a target market and a demographic, how to target by demographic, how to define. Let's see. Let's read what this one says. Your target market consists of your current customers and high potential new customers. So this is all about business operators focus on their advertising and promotional activities on their core customers. That is their target market. Now, a demographic, it is an accepted truism that no 2 people are alike. It is also that only the wealthy, okay, blah, blah, blah. This doesn't really tell me too much. So here we go. Characteristics of a demographic include range of attributes such as age, gender, education level, income level, marital status, parental status, race, religion, geographic location, home ownership status, and nature of employment. So that's what kind of this article is defining a demographic as. Let's see. Let's take out target audience and just what are demographics. Let's see. And here we can see this list from a small business website: age, gender, race, marital status, number of children, occupation, income level, education level, living status. And this looks like a really great article to use. Political affiliations, religious affiliations, nationalities, disabilities, social classes, and why defining your demographics is empowering. So take a note of this website up here because this looks like a really good article. And it's from 2019, which is great. It's a current resource, which is something we want to make sure that we're grabbing too. Okay. So if I'm looking at this demographic list, I only have to pick 5 of them. I don't have to define all of these. Now, what you want to do for your assignment, okay, is describe the 5 demographics and explain why these demographics best describe a typical customer. Okay, so let's just walk through this really quick because I know that this can get a little confusing. If I come here and I pick my 5 demographics, let's just pick the first 5 on this list. Not that these are the 5 that you're going to use, okay? And I'm going to put it in here. When I look at what I have to do, okay, I want to describe why these demographics best describe a typical customer for the product. And this is, again, everybody's is going to be different. So I don't want you to think that there's necessarily a right answer. It's just, does your answer support what the goal of a target audience and defining a target audience is? So you can, again, put in here a little background about target audience and say, these are the 5 demographics that I identified. But I also want you to give a little detail. Age. So maybe, you know, demographic 1 is age. And go ahead and define it. The target age for the Most Home Smart Lock is, let's say, 30 to 35-year-olds. Okay. Write a little bit about each of these demographics and why you chose them and what you're defining it for your project. Okay. If you're going to use age, then I want you to write about the age. Why? Why is this? You know, it could be, this has to be based research, okay? So if I'm going to write the target age for the Most Home Smart Lock is 30 to 35 years old, how do I know that? And I need to be able to cite how I know that. How you can do that, you know, again, Google things. What is the average age of a home buyer? Are you targeting people who have owned their homes a long time? Are you targeting first-time home buyers? You know, these are all things that you need to try and ask yourself. We can look and do some research and try and find out, okay, 32-year-olds is the average based off of the Southern Living article that, when was this posted? Because again, we always want to try and make sure that we're using recent information. This doesn't have a date on it. So it's saying, again, 32-year-olds with a median income of $75,000, is your typical first-time home buyer according to the data from the National Association of Realtors. So this is 2017 data, which isn't bad. We can still use 2017. I would say anything that's more than 3 years old, try and stay away from it. Single females make up a larger share of sales. But again, so I can say the target age for most home smart lock is 30 to 35 years old, according to the, what is this, National Association of Realtors. The average age of first-time home buyers is 32 years old. And again, you're going to make sure, you know, put your citation here to remind yourself to cite that. Since the most home smart lock are, you would say, our target audience focuses on first-time home buyers that want to protect their new investment. Okay, so again, write a little bit on each section. It only has to be 500 words. So, you know, you're talking about less than a page here. But make sure you put a little bit about your overall target audience, okay? Write a generalized paragraph here, and you know, at the beginning about most home, the smart lock, and an overview of who your target audience is. And then you want to drill in, you know, for my target audience, these are the 5 demographics. These are the 5 demographics we've identified. Oops. Okay, so then you're going to list your 5 demographics and go into detail about each one. And back that detail up with the research that you do, okay? And again, looking at this article right here, there's a lot of things that we can learn. It was saying that, let's see, and this year the share of sales to first-time home buyers was 34%. So maybe we don't want to focus on first-time home buyers. I don't know. This is all questions that we want to ask ourselves. But hopefully you'll see as you read through, student debt balances continue to grow. So 41% of first-time buyers indicate they have student debt. You know, that could tell us a little bit of something more about our target audience. They probably went to school. And since they do have student debt, they are probably more budget conscious, but they still want to protect their home. So perhaps this is a really good example of, you know, who a most home smart lock customer could be. But again, everybody's is going to be different. There's no right one target audience that you have to define for these assignments. It is the target audience and demographics that you are defining, but they obviously need to make sense, okay? So everybody's is probably could be a little bit different, and that is totally okay. So for your assessment, again, you want to identify 5 demographics for your target audience and explain why this is an important demographic that you've identified. For something like age, the reason we picked that is because we found through this article that first-time home buyers make up 34% of the buying market, of the home market. That is a pretty good chunk, okay? If they're first-time home buyers, they probably want to protect their investment more. They're going to be budget conscious. Again, hopefully everybody's kind of seeing how this moves along like that. So this is what you have to do for your assessment. And again, if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask, okay? So you want to, again, identify 5 demographics for your target audience, give some information about that demographic and why it's important for you to identify them and how you're going to use it. And it's just, again, a Word document, 500 pages, okay? So if we come back to our prompt here, everybody sometimes gets super confused about this when they see this and says, okay, how do I actually submit my assignment here? And a lot of times people have problems with it, and I totally understand. So the first thing you want to make sure you do is keep your final document as a Word document. And all you need to do is hit submit. And basically what this is this is a plagiarism checker. And it's going to make sure, and it scours the entire web and identifies any sentences, paragraphs, or anything like that that are word for word in on another website or any other kind of student paper or anything like that. Basically, if you have found something on the internet and you're going to use it in your assessment, you need to make sure that you have rewritten it in your own words, okay? Do not copy and paste things 100%. If you do, like a statistic or a sentence, make sure that you cite it, okay? So what happens is this VeriCite goes and it will scour the web and try and find anything that matches what you have in your paper word for word, and it'll flag it. And everybody gets a plagiarism score. Now, technically, your plagiarism score should be 0. Now, if you've cited things correctly, then it might still pick it up as plagiarism, but I'll be able to see that you cited it, and that's okay. The higher your plagiarism score goes, the more it will affect your grade. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up, don't plagiarize. If you do, make sure you cite what you have copied. For a 500-word paper, you shouldn't have more than maybe 1 or 2 things cited word for word, okay? Once you have everything done, you want to come in here to the submit. You can enter the title as Week 1 Assessment Target audience. Make sure you put who it is, okay? That is, now actually I don't think you guys have to do this. I'm doing this because I'm in the teacher view. So I actually don't think that this will all already be filled out for you. And you know what, let me go and double check here and go to, usually I have a student view here. Here we go. Oops, hold on, not that one. We're in week 1. So here's what it's going to look like for you. If you get this request authorization, okay, make sure you click it and do authorize. And then it's going to bring you back. So you don't have that drop down because, again, as a student, it's going to go ahead. So make sure you just put a title, okay? And then all you want to do is you can either come in here, select all your text, do copy and paste, okay, you can do that, or you can, whoops, hold on, come on. There you go. You can take your actual Word document, I'm just going to grab one here, and drag it into here. And honestly, I swear, this never works for me. So maybe that's not what, oh, here, we can do our browse files. And let's just go ahead. And I'm just gonna, again, select some random thing for this class. Let's see if I have, here we go. So then it'll upload my Word document. So you can either upload it through the Browse Files button, or you can copy and paste it. And we see it's processing, processing, processing. But I know that this might be something that everyone hasn't seen yet, so I always like to make sure that we walk through it so that nobody's too confused. And then what it's going to do, it's going to put all of the text from that Word document in here, okay? And then we're just going to click Submit. Okay. Each page will be, okay, so we don't need to read all of that. Now, what happens is everything's submitted, and then you want to do Submit to Assignment. Oh, nope, we don't have to do that part. And I know this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So there we go. We see that it was submitted. If you see this window here, it says not yet graded. Plagiarism, we don't know that yet. And we have the actions. Once you see this window in your submission, you know that you have done it correctly, okay? And that Submit to Assignment button is really confusing, so don't worry about that one, okay? So let me reset that. And don't stress, if you guys have problems, just reach out to me. I know that using these new things, even for me that's had to do it a couple times, I still get a little confused too. So don't be shy, just holler if there's a problem, okay? So that is our week 1 assignment and assessment. I really look forward to reading everybody's work. I'm super excited. And like I said, if you have any questions, don't be shy to reach out. If you aren't sure where my information is, if you click on About the Instructor on the home page, okay, here's my email and here's my phone number. And you can text or call this phone number. It's totally up to you. And here's my email as well. I always encourage you guys to please, just for the sake of this class for 4 weeks, write this down on a piece of paper so that if your internet goes down, if you don't have your computer with you, if you can't log in for some reason, if you lose power, you have my information and you can let me know. So write everything down, write down my email, write down my phone number, put it somewhere that on your fridge. So if for some reason, again, you can't access the class, you can let me know. It can be very challenging when I get an email on Sunday saying, I didn't get to turn in my assignment because my computer wouldn't start and I couldn't get your phone number. Well, again, you know, on Sunday, it's a little bit hard at that point to do things. So always make sure you have a way. So write it down away from the class, away from electronic devices, so that you know how to get a hold of me if needed. Okay? So that's where all that information is. But good luck, everybody, for week 1. I also wanted to remind you guys that we're going to have help sessions on Saturday. Here are the times. So it's just for an hour that I'll open the Zoom room. You can just click on this link here. Okay, so if you have any questions or you're having problems with something, on Saturday, you can just pop in and I'll be there and can offer any help that I can. Okay, so good luck, everybody. I'm super excited. And yeah, I look forward to everyone's submissions. I hope everyone has a good week.